Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. And I told you, Camille, you're an idiot. Letting him walk away with your money like that. Emily's words stayed in the woman's head. What was I supposed to do? You're not a trophy, but you're my best friend, and you know very well that Stephen left with the money when I wasn't home. Camille still could not get over the fact that the money she had collected for her daughter's enrollment, her husband simply took it and left for a young mistress, just leaving a note on the table. I'm sorry, I took the money. It's mine. But I'll leave you the apartment. Goodbye, beggar. The woman simply could not believe her words when on the eve of her daughter's enrollment in college, she found on the table such a message from her spouse. And it would not be so offensive if this money he earned together with her and were needed for repairs or a trip to the sea. But as it is, Emily, you know very well that I collected them on a penny. Plus from the sale of my mom's apartment left and need apples for admission to the university. She's smart, but there are no budget places in that institute. It's all paid. All right, she can't be a dentist. So maybe she should choose a simpler specialty. Well, it's true, so God didn't give her that path. No money, no profession. What are you talking about? I didn't study to be a doctor myself. At least let my daughter be what she wanted to be. It's true, Camille went to medical school when she was young, but she didn't pass the competition. But on the financier entered and all her life worked first as an administrator, then a senior administrator, assistant manager in a major metropolitan company in the Department of Raw Materials Supply. And what can I say? Although the work paid well, but it was not what she liked. But where to go? Work was money, and she had to raise her daughter, and she had to pull her husband along. Yeah, that husband wasn't the best spouse. He worked as an ordinary and not quite successful office employee financier in a government office. A cauldron, so to speak. What can you do? His work itself suited him. After all, you cannot really strain at work, and after just sit and drink beer with colleagues to crack. And then, apparently, there was some mistress who stole him away. But stealing is one thing, but living large is another. And nowadays, not everything is so cheap and accessible. Girl, I'm sorry, but the truth is, you know I've disliked your man since the wedding, and I've always said hide the money, gold, and documents. That's the first thing you should take in case of flood, fire, and divorce. Oh well, don't feel too bad. I owe you the right amount for the first year, and that's enough. She's my goddaughter after all. And then, but then what about me? Well, really, I have to give them back and study for 5 years. Where will I find another 4 years? I don't know what to do. There's nothing left to sell. Well, by the way, I can help you. I have an acquaintance. He's been giving me the runaround for a while. Well, don't look at me like that, friend. I'm a beautiful, glamorous girl. I know I can afford to sigh. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. Tell me about your beau. Is he a banker or a tycoon? Or is he some kind of criminal who can give me money for nothing? Imagine that. He may not give you as much money as you need, but he's the owner of a large but very large company. So he once mentioned to me that he needs a person to manage the company, smart, knowledgeable. And you're my mouse, you're just what I need. Not as pretty as me, but you'll have more brains than me. How's that sound? Well, really, I can handle it. After all, it's one thing to be a senior in my company and control the supply of raw materials and other issue of your acquaintance. But it's a very large company. There, probably, and the level of international need a person with the appropriate training. Don't worry, I'll help you. He really is. The man is normal, adequate, will look at you, at your labor characteristics. If necessary, will send to training courses. So don't worry, and her friend hugged her gently. Camille stroked her arm. Yeah, things happen in life. You gotta help out. The man will definitely come back, crawling on his knees. That a modern girl needs money and nothing else. And there's love and carrots, as it was in their youth. For them, simply something amorphous and does not exist as such. But Stephen is still walking and crawling, saying, "Sorry, sorry, I want to go home with your cutlets and repairs." Emily, thank you. I'm really getting discouraged. You know, my daughter is everything to me. And if I can learn to be a dentist with your bosom, and she'll treat our teeth in her old age, and we'll give her candy and all sorts of sweets. And we both laughed. They did. It's so good to have a friend who will help you borrow money in the end, and enjoy, and will advise you on how to deal with a bit. Camille had known her since she was a little girl. We went to school together. Then they disappeared during college, but then they met again. Camille had taken a friend as a cousin when she gave birth to her, Elon, and never regretted it. Now she's helping her and her daughter. Stephen really was a slippery type. Not only her best friend, but also her mother. Now deceased, though. Although at that time Camille was in love with him and simply did not notice or did not want to notice anything around her, especially did not listen to her own conscience and intuition. Now she is reaping the fruits of her own carelessness. All her life Camille has been pulling her family, her daughter, her house, her work, her husband, who wanted nothing more than to eat and drink with friends. Sometimes, however, to go fishing, to sit, so to speak, dial up and commune with nature. And it turns out that nature just burst into their lives and took her away. And most importantly, seized her hard-earned penny by penny money. But that was only the beginning of what Camille's destiny was in store for. "Camille, you take my advice," said a slightly tipsy Emily. "Best friends, file a divorce. Or better yet, write a statement to the police. Well, say, the money is missing, and confirm that they were. And you just sold your mother's apartment. Emily, I understand perfectly. But he's not going to get that money back. It's gone. Let's just forget it was ever in my hands or in my house." "You said your house. Then I'd better change the locks so the bastard doesn't get the deed to the apartment. Or you'll come home and it'll be 0.0. That's something Camille thought about at her leisure. If the husband left and his new girlfriend has the keys to the apartment, where is the guarantee that she will not come here to get something else? The woman nodded her head and said, "Yes, you're right. We'll have to call a locksmith on the weekend and have him change the locks. Or they'll really take out the last of it." Already this Sunday, the locksmith was changing the locks on Camille's door from the morning and smiled with all his 32 teeth. Yes, the young one is smiling and hitting on her and coming to visit, though he's old enough to be her son. "Camille, you should change the doors. Your locks are good German. But the canvas and the frames are flimsy, and they can't withstand the pressure if you move them with a strong shoulder." But that's how your shoulders, Camille decided to support the playful mood of the guy, and smiled back at him. "Yeah, like my shoulders. Do you live without a husband? You can feel that there is no man's hand in the house." The boy looked carefully through the corridor and thought to himself, "I should fix the lamp and the shelf. It must be badly held. Yes, this house has been without a good and strong man's hand for a long time." "How long have you known Emily?" Camille decided to change the subject. She didn't want to raise another little mama's boy. "Oh, a long time. You know, I'm her neighbor, so I often repaired her faucets and washed them. I recently wired the light fixture and hung a chandelier. If necessary, I'll do it for you, and you can feed me dinner." "You mean hunger?" "No, it's just to fill up on coffee, so to speak. And if you don't want to," she really didn't want to have a relationship right now, especially not this young man. He could be her son, though he's got the right hands. To tell the truth, his wife would be lucky to have a master in the house, not like her Stephen, who had never hammered a nail in the house in his whole life. No, I suppose he'd hammered a nail or two in his life. Otherwise, he just ate and drank. That's about it. "Young man, no offense, but you're too old for me." "Oh, Camille, how old are you? You're a woman in the prime of life. You yourself simply do not realize your beauty and strength, so to speak, of your years." "Thank you very much. I don't even know your name. Unfortunately, you're just Robert, but think about it. Here's my number." And the guy handed me a business card. there's nail a shelf, hammer a nail into a wall, or fix a faucet. In my case, just accept an invitation for coffee or invite me to your place. Okay, I'll think about your offer, but right now, as a hostess, this is not a well-maintained or renovated home. I ask you, Robert, how much do I owe you? It's not much. Give me 200 and we'll call it even. Camille paid the guy and closed the door behind him and exhaled. Well, at least Elon at the tutors didn't see all that scent, as her grandmother would say. Though well, the woman was actually pleased to hear the young lad say such words. After all, she had long ago waved goodbye to herself, or rather, how she had given up on herself. At least she always looked after herself. She dressed according to fashion, made makeup, but she looked askew at all the harassment of men from the outside, trying to culturally dissuade each of them. Yeah, Camille, you look pretty good. Maybe I do. Emily divorce her husband and have an affair with a young guy, get back on her feet and go out again. She's an empress. She danced around her apartment. And for the first time she smiled at the fact that her Stephen was not in the house. Camille spun dancing to her favorite tune, which hummed under her nose, and did not even hear how John entered the apartment. This is me watching in a good mood. We have an occasion. I guess, Father, I'll pay you back. Well, daughter, I didn't hear you come in. No, our daddy didn't return the money. But you know, maybe that's not the point. You've got yourself a lover. You've got yourself a lover. Her daughter was always understanding, loved her more than her father, though she resembled Stephen in appearance, but her character was her mother's. Elon could tolerate for a long time, but when it became unbearable, just became like a tigress protecting her cubs. And when her daughter found out about her father's betrayal, about the fact that he had done such a mean thing to them, she simply went into her room and did not come out for almost 24 hours. And then she just told her mother that her daddy was dead. Yes, in essence, he was dead to Camille. But the woman was already hoping that her husband would come to his senses and maybe even give her the money. But no, she'd given up on them long ago. She'd seen how cunning and money-hungry modern girls were. Elon, let's have dinner. Come on. By the way, Aunt Emily will help us with the money. It's almost time for school, and we have to pay for it. Yes, she'll help us. And not only will she help pay for the first year, but she promised to get me a better job. Wow, maybe I'll have more money though. I need it. New sneakers, and my cell phone is really old. And the girl looked pityingly at her mother, and then at her phone. Yes, phones. Really, the daughter has a rarity. And in the institute, you need to be not worse than everyone else. Let not better, but she smiled and quietly sighed and rubbed her daughter on the head. I thought you worked part-time this summer. And how much you do not have enough to buy a cross and a new phone. Mom, really, where's the money coming from? I mean, we're not exactly on a budget yet. Sweet daughter, that's my job as an experienced financial planner. And Elon gave her mother a hug and a peck on the cheek. But only tomorrow after work on Sunday you'll choose it yourself. Daughter in joy ran to her room to the old laptop to share her joy in the social network. Yeah, that old laptop is the only valuable thing Stephen has left. He unknowingly took this laptop and gave it to his daughter for her 15th birthday. She was overjoyed, but not for long before another drunkenness of her husband, when he raised his hand on her and on the little girl, promising with anger to break the laptop or sell it and drink the money. From that moment on, his daughter turned her back on him for forever. And after the incident with the theft of the family money put aside for Elon's studies, she simply stopped noticing him. And when he went to his mistress, I'll find the money, period. Camille looked at the wedding ring she still wore on her hand. Maybe Emily was right. It would be worth taking the ring off, divorce her husband, and get a new life at a new job. And having to buy her daughter sneakers and a phone would be the perfect excuse to pawn the ring tomorrow. Sell it? Probably not. After all, she wasn't ready to fully let go of the past, no matter how hard she tried. Tomorrow, She'd have to go to the pawn shop, and then she'd have to make her daughter happy. Elon, how would you like me to pick up a pizza tomorrow? Huh. Mom, you're definitely hiding something from me. Why don't you tell me what happened? Nothing. Maybe Emily's right. I should file for divorce, change jobs, go to a dance class, or something. And then maybe even get a nice man to go to the movies or the theater with, maybe even for coffee. And maybe you'll even bring him to our house to meet your teenage daughter. And I'll use that as an excuse to go to Evelyn's for a sleepover, beer and boys. Yeah, you can go to Evelyn's, but no beer. And the boys. You'll get in first, and then you'll have no shortage of boys at school. Although you know very well that she won't approve of excessive drinking. If you drink in moderation and, if possible, a good product. I'm just kidding. Okay, I gotta go to Evelyn's. We're gonna study for our midterms. She's doing her finances, and I'm doing my medicine. Today is Thursday. I'll probably be at a friend's house Friday, and Saturday, Sunday, her parents will bring me home in their car. And a window in the cheek. Daughter ran to her friend's house. Daughter, only not long, it's late. And you haven't eaten. It's okay, I'll eat at Evelyn's. Yeah. And by the way, if you need anything, maybe we can go with her and her parents to the dacha for a barbecue. You don't mind, do you? No, it's fine. Just call me if you're staying there. Okay, shouted Elon, running out of the apartment, slamming the door. Come on. At least you didn't get any sleep. Finally got some sleep. They cooked something simple and at least cleaned the apartment because there was no time. And Camille started to do what she had planned, even though it was already evening. And she had to go to work tomorrow. There was a pawn shop on the way. A couple hours later, Elon called and said she was staying at a friend's house for the night and that she was going to a barbecue on Friday. Yeah, that's it, Camille. Soon my daughter's gonna find a date and get married. Maybe even move to another city. And you'll live alone. That's okay. Maybe I'll find a beau after all. She smiled at her thoughts, fixed her hair and looked at herself in the big mirror in the corridor. He's got a nice figure, too. His hair is still black wing of the wise raven gives, and the oval of the face is still nothing. Breasts. It's not without reason that the young master looked at her so much. He knows she's gone. Where to look for the best? I'll show you again, Stephen. You'll come to me for favor. And in fact, she did. But she didn't know it yet. Camille woke up to the fact that someone had been ringing insistently and beating his fist on the wooden floorboard since morning. Camille opens and Stephen, I need to talk urgently. Oh God, you're the last thing we need here. Camille thought and looked at her watch. 6 o'clock. I wonder what brought him here so early and on a Friday. The woman threw off her robe and went to the door, but she was in no hurry to open it. Stephen, I'm not going to open it. What do you want? I need to get my things. And what's with the whole talking through the door thing? Open up, and we'll talk like normal people. Normal people don't steal tuition money. Daughters don't take them to their mistresses. Well, no need to knock on the door. Pack your things and come back on Sunday. What the hell are you talking about? Open the cradle, asshole. He started banging on the door with his fist. But then Camille heard a door open on the top floor. And the neighbor, by the way, a military man who works for the police, his voice enslaved. Stephen, don't knock on the door. You've been told to back off. If you don't listen, I'll call the riot police. Yeah, her neighbor is such a responsible, order-loving guy. Wouldn't let her get too excited. And he's seen Camille filming, how he often drinks on weekends. There was even a case when he, being a little tipsy, asked Camille, you're a normal woman. Work, looks, apartment. Why do you need a man like that? And the occasion was trivial. Stephen was drunk as usual, apparently so much so that he just fell asleep on a bench in the yard. Didn't even notice the puddle of matches underneath him. Camille wouldn't even take him home. They say, let him sleep on the street to air out. And tomorrow we'll talk. Although we didn't have to talk much. The husband himself realized how much ours went and came home apologizing. "I'm sorry, my fault. I had a drink with my friends. It was an embarrassment." Yeah, embarrassing. Bossy was lying on the bench, and men spit on you. That's what friends are called. Go pray and don't ever sleep in the same bed with me again. From that moment on, Camille simply refused to sleep with her husband. It pissed Stephen off even more. He could call her a cold woman when he was drunk, talk to a man over a beer about how sexy and macho he was, and as a wife, it hurt Camille at first. But then she just let it go. No, she wasn't cold. Just probably hadn't met someone she was ready to share a bed with. But as they say, into fire and water. Stephen simply nullified that desire with his words and attitude. But on Sunday, Stephen came early for his things. Good, at least the daughter went with a friend to the dacha to her parents, so she did not catch from the very beginning how the father takes out of the house his own old things, even for nightwear. You're just old, divorced with a trailer. I've already filed for divorce, so take even your old socks. I don't even want them in here. Fine, take them. It's all here in this old suitcase that you brought with you when you moved in. So you're welcome to move in with that old lady with the trailer. And my daughter doesn't mind. Come on. I hope you didn't think to have a daughter with me. I'm not paying child support." At that very moment, Elon was coming up the stairs, and she heard these words that her father had said, or rather, shouted at her. She realized that the words were spoken both to her and to her mother, though more than anything else it offended her. The fact that her father did not recognize she was called, you could say, illegitimate. Unnecessary to him, it just killed the girl, but she did not show it. And she just told her father in her eyes, "Then why do you cling to us so much? Go to your young one. You've already made your choice." And walking past him into the apartment, the daughter contemptuously said, "Mom." What's more to say, good daughter, Camille thought. She knows how to fight back. And Stephen just clenched his teeth and grabbed an old suitcase and began to descend the stairs. His fate had long been written in the book of life, and the old and shabby suitcase hinted at it. It simply opened on the steps, and all the things spilled out on it, fanning out: socks, scarves, hats to underwear and t-shirts. And Stephen decided to gather up all his old junk and take it out. The neighbor from upstairs couldn't help but move in the direction of the local debauchee and quietly giggled. In principle, what quiet is there in the old walls of a Stalinist house? This laughter sounded almost like a bell ringing. It made the man even more angry, and he, despite, began to collect and stuff his belongings inside the suitcase. Grishchenko for a long time yet. The voice sounded so ringing that everyone thought it was a child speaking. Well, no, it was a young girl, almost a child with doll-like appearance, painted eyelashes, pumped lips, and bright makeup. And in her high heels, she gave the impression that if she didn't fall off her high heels now, she would certainly fly away at the next sweep of her painted eyelashes. Yes, a hammer. All around thought, sharply shifting their gaze and attention to this one. Yeah, you've picked a young one. I'll give you that. The neighbor snickered and went upstairs. Yes, she's certainly a beauty with a doll-like appearance. Camille thought and smiled to herself. Such a beauty is not a pity to let go. She takes it all. Although no, she felt sorry for her daughter the money that Stephen took. After all, now the question of enrollment and payment is in doubt. And Elon wanted so much to enroll this year. But nothing, even the worst, can be turned to good. Emily will help. And if the job comes up again, you can live a good life without holy socks. And that's the solution. She smirked, slammed the door, closing behind her own past, which so loudly and scandalously left her house. Mom, what was that exactly? Daughter, though she understood that her father was coming to get his things, but that's just how a daughter is. Apparently, Dad decided to take his old socks and t-shirts out of our house, so you or I wouldn't have to take out the garbage again. Yeah, it's the one with the pouty lips. I can see that. God, what's the fear? My daughter theatrically grabbed her head and went into the bathroom to scream as she went. "Mom, I'm fine. I prepared for the entrance tickets, learn tickets, boys were, but without beer and wash, and sleep for a couple of hours. You'll eat." The mother thought how her daughter has grown for this year, but she will still be a little girl for her. "No, I was fed in another family by the river with yesterday's kebabs, had breakfast, and my parents were brought here. So don't worry, I'm not hungry." She closed the door and turned on the water, and Camille went to the kitchen to put on the kettle and make herself some fragrant tea. The woman liked to start her weekend morning with a literate drink, and in fact, she was glad her daughter was home and doing well. Elon was having a great time, and Stephen had finally taken all her belongings. Nothing to remind her of her husband. And he's gonna sue. That's a frightening piece of news. At least I don't have to pay a fee. "Mom, Dad got here early to pick up his stuff." "Yeah, probably about 10 minutes before you got here, which is fine. It's just that I was getting out of the car and my parents and his stupidity just got out of the red Mini Cooper. That's quite a car. Probably wasn't bought with my hard-earned money." And the daughter grinned. After all, she had long dreamed of such a car, but she realized that her mother would not pull it out. Her father wouldn't give it to her. Camille stroked her head and said, "Let's not do this. It's not our headache. How did she get it there? And you know damn well that young lady's father won't." "Mom, I'll tell you more than that. He'll come crawling back in a couple months and say, 'I'm sorry. Take her in and feed her.' That lip's got nothing but lips and eyelashes. What's she worth? And that dress she's wearing is worth a lot. How much? Probably your entire paycheck for a month at the most. I understand. But what can I do then? I didn't even realize it was like this. A gray hair on my head. And now it's too late. The money's gone. Dad's gone. I don't care if he shows up. As long as they don't bring him back. Well, that's my daughter, but don't worry. I'm not taking him back. Maybe your godmother's right about getting him out of here. By the way, you and I were going to go and pick you a phone and a cross at the market today. You okay?" "Yes, but let me sleep for a couple hours, and you wake me up at 9 o'clock, and we'll get ready." Camille nodded her head. And what did she poke her daughter on the cheek with? How good did she smell? It smelled of her shampoo and childhood. And while her daughter slept, she should go through her closet and choose what to wear to town, going through her closet of things. Camille thought that a long time ago, Antonina drove. There are 3 things. One is old, out of fashion, nothing to wear. I should really throw half of my things in the trash, leaving the minimum. And starting from the beginning and not putting her decision off, she began to tear off her things and throw them on the floor. Enough of her thinking about others. It was time to get herself in order. Looking through the pile of things, from which she selected only 3 dresses and a couple of suits, Camille thought that one suitcase, like Stephen's, would not do here. A package of 3 or 4 should be taken to the dump. "Moth, why did you decide to do a cleanup this morning? What about the market and the mall?" "Yes, you know, my daughter gave me a good meeting in the morning. I thought about it and decided that my closet has as much old stuff in it as his suitcase. I'll probably throw it all in the dumpster and he'll take you shopping. You'll help me pick out a couple of decent suits." The daughter looked at her mother carefully, saying, "Where did we get the capital from?" Camille didn't pretend and took out her purse. I showed her the money, and then my right hand, which no longer had a wedding ring on it. I just pawned the little diamond engagement ring your father gave me when he proposed. Well, really, the daughter couldn't sell it, just pawned it. And then she could buy it back. Maybe my godmother's right. We should cut right to the heart of the matter. You're so smart. You think you're gonna get married. Live with me for almost 16 years. And then we'll talk about it together in our old age. Yes, such 2 old ladies who are already years old and have grandchildren running around, 2 old cats, and without whom we feed meat from a spoon. We're really gonna get a cat. It's been a long time since I've had a living thing in the house. I remember having a guinea pig and a parrot when I was a kid, but we could never get a cat. Then my mom got allergies, then my husband. Did you get one? Where to? I'm thinking an animal. I don't mind. By the way, Evelyn has a cat, a beauty, a PR. A redhead should give birth. So I think we'll get a kitten by New Year's Eve. Just dibs on the cat. They're so cool. Will you be honored? You're the imam. Come on, I got it. All right, come on, get ready. Let's go to the market, and then to TSUM or straight to TSUM. Let's go there. I know a couple boutiques. Evelyn gave me some discount cards, so mom's on the cheap. I've been working a little over the summer, hoping for a nice dress. Maybe that's enough for you. No, you're gonna have to splurge, Mom. Camille hugged her daughter. What a good girl she raised. The way they take care of their mother. And that her ex-husband, who had splurged on a ring and helped her make repairs. She kissed Elon on the top of the head and patted him on the back. Say, let's go get ready. A few hours later, they were sitting in a cafe with their purchases, ordering pizza and juice. God, what a fool she was that she gave her husband and herself and her daughter the minimum of attention. She smiled and looked at her beauty, who was sitting and showing off her new colors on her legs, twirling her phone in her hands, which she thought was really expensive, and told how cool it was at her parents' dacha. Elon. And if we eventually buy a dacha, well, dacha is a strong word. So let it be a small house of 100 hectare. So 5 or 6 garden, raspberries, strawberries, and we'll come on weekends. I'll take care of the berries, plant tomatoes, and then we'll do the planting. Mole, it's not for that there are kebabs to make a camping put a barbecue, folding chairs. Imagine how cool it will be. We will not go for cucumbers and tomatoes, but for example, fry meat and fish on mangoes. You like fish, don't you? Camille closed her eyes for a moment and imagined this picture described by her daughter in front of her eyes. God, really, why did she only come to this now? You know, I still have your great-grandmother. My grandmother used to say you have to grow up to the ground before you can grow a vegetable garden. I guess I have. I really want to plant. There are different berries, onions, herbs. We'll have your barbecue, my herbs, cucumbers, and all that. And a hammock. They sat and ate pizza and talked. And in the evening, Camille looked in the mirror in her new suit. There was a new dress on the chair. She had to buy some shoes, blue boots, and she could take her daughter to the institute, to come to the first bell and be embarrassed. Why did you come in an old dress? Mommy, how beautiful you are. How does this suit suit you? Do you think I won't be ashamed to go to your first call at the institute in it? No, Mom, you know, you have to pay the rent in a week. I got into the competition, but if I don't pay for a year, the place will go to another applicant. The daughter looked guiltily at her mother. I don't know how to put the question further, but Camille tapped herself on the forehead and picked up her cell phone. Emily, hi, and you promised to bring me the money today. I didn't forget. Don't worry, girlfriend. I'm just on my way to you in my new boss's car. Wait, what's that? What new boss? Emily, I really don't understand this. You don't have to. I'll be there in a few minutes. I thought I'd surprise you. But you called earlier, so put the kettle on. The girl's off. Camille stood in a new suit and in front of the mirror for a couple of minutes and did not understand what was going on. Friend money new boss is not clear at all who he is and why goes to a potential employee. Sunday night. Mom, what's going on? Elon saw her mother's face, which from surprise must have stretched in a way it never had before. She looked at her daughter and quietly said, yes, there's Nancy coming to bring money. She says she's going to introduce us to my new boss. I honestly don't understand anything. What's there to understand? If we get the money, we'll pay for school. Maybe we can find you not only a boss, but also a new life partner. And then the doorbell rang so insistently that both jumped from surprise. Well, there's your new boss. And you in a new suit, as they say. You'll meet him with a gun. Elon, don't be silly. He's not stupid, he understands. And Camille went out on wobbly legs, opens the door. I feel like an idiot in this new suit. Opening the door, the woman saw on the threshold smiling Emily, who under the arm held a handsome man of short height, gray hair. That was the first thing that caught Camille's eye, though her friend immediately motioned her off the threshold and into the apartment, saying hello to Elon and introducing her to all the men. Good evening. This is Christopher, the owner of a large logistics company, who at the moment needs an experienced and honest manager, someone like Camille. Camille, meet your potential boss. Christopher, this is Camille. Remember that movie, Remember, Office Romance? Good afternoon, Camille. I'm sorry to surprise you, but I've told you so many good things about you. I'm in desperate need of an unobtrusive person inside the company. I don't know how I talked myself into coming here uninvited. I'm sorry. Camille, you're not potizing him any harm. Christopher's been running the company a long time, and it's his credo to know how his employees live and what they need. Emily, stop for a minute. I'm sorry, Christopher, if I'm not mistaken. I just wasn't prepared for the visit, but it's flattering to have good things said about me. Yes, and I'm at work at the moment, but you need the money. Your daughter got into med school, so I'll be honest, having a medic in the family is a good thing, but it's the only reason you want to change jobs in the first place, right? Yeah, and I think you can ask anyone at my job for a decent reference. And can I handle the job you're giving me? You can handle it. You've got 20 years experience. I stood up for my friend, as always, and started to undress immediately to push my companion. Camille, this cake, what there, sweet fruit. Sorry, take it as an apology. It's nothing, really, come in. I'll put the kettle on. We'll sit and talk. I'll show you my resume. As the young people say, diplomas. Maybe you're not suited to a man like me. Let's talk. And then they sat in the kitchen, drank tea, and just talked about everything but work. After 2 o'clock, Christopher abruptly left for work, saying he was busy, which made Camille very wary. Christopher, thank you for stopping by. I apologize if there's anything wrong. What could be wrong? Christopher looked at the woman carefully. I came to see the man to look at my future management company. Yes, that's exactly how you'll manage. Trust my intuition and packed experience. That's why I'm letting you know right away. It's a demanding job, but it's gonna pay good money. He decided long ago that he was taking her on as manager. Sophia's recommendation of his own intuition was no longer important, and the visit to Camille's house itself is clean. Everything is arranged in its place, furnished tastefully. He has long made it a habit to visit apartments and houses where his employees or potential candidates for leadership positions live. And all because the house is the face of each employee. The way things are arranged here, that's how a person works at work. But you never know. I'm sorry, I probably look stupid, and I'm just asking unnecessary questions. It's just that Camille needs this job. I couldn't help myself as usual, and I definitely put in my 0.05R. And she'll get it if she wants to quit her previous job. Here's to falling in love. Here's my card for you, Camille. If you decide to transfer to me, I'll guarantee you 3 times your current salary. Good working conditions, vacation time. That's it for now. 3 times my salary. But how do you know what my salary is? Oh, I'm sorry, Christopher. Emily must have told you, but it's really 3 times as much. Camille, don't doubt it. If Christopher says it's 3 times as much, it is. Go for it. You won't regret it. Christopher, if you don't mind. Can I have a couple of days to solve the issue with the previous job? But I want to be sure that you will take me to a new job, so that it will not happen that I leave the old job, and the new one will not accept me. Your employment history is at your old job. Camille nodded her head, but she didn't understand what the question was about. So, if I'm not mistaken, your company is called Nicanor & Co. And if you don't mind, I'll come to you tomorrow, make an agreement with your bosses, and put a record of your employment right in front of you. You will be able to start on Wednesday or Thursday as soon as you solve all the issues with the transfer of the position. Camille was standing in the hallway. I just didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know how to react. But Elon stepped in. "Christopher, I'm Elon, Camille's daughter, and I can speak for my mom. She agrees. It's just that she's an old school woman, and she can't just say yes right off the bat." Christopher smiled and looked at Camille and said quietly, "You are accepted. And I'll tell you more. I have already talked to your superiors and received the best recommendations from them. So I hope you will work for me. Emily, I'm waiting for you. The cars will take you home." He nodded his head and walked out of the door, closing it quietly and carefully as if it were his own. Emily shrugged quietly, kissed her friend and said, "But all friend, consider the job and a normal paycheck in your pocket. Go to work tomorrow. Old job and wait for the new boss. All call me tomorrow." And the friend slipped out the door, sending Camille and Delaunay. Air-kissed winked, saying, "It's okay. You can take it easy." When the door closed behind her, daughter and mother looked at each other and laughed. After all, everything really happened as in a joke or other funny comedy. How cool it was. I really feel like a fool in this dress, and so will look at me and think here is the efficiency here called already painted in a new dress, Mom. But everything that is done, all so spontaneous, is done for the best. Did you teach me that? Or not like that, but like this. But understand, this is my potential boss. Yes, he's a man first and foremost. Did you notice the way he looked at you? Just look at his eyes, where they're pointing. I was ready to fall through the ground. It's true that he did look at me in a special way. I mean, I could see it with my naked eye. It's, like that soap opera where the main character devours the hottie with his eyes. Oh, come on. Charming. They're all assholes, daughter, men. And remember, it's not about trying to fall in love. They're so nice, and then they can stab you in the back. But not all of them are like that. It's true, I'm looking at my girlfriend's essays. Mother and father live a long time and don't even fight. And she has Jack, a nice guy who always brings her flowers, cakes. That's great. And when she was sick, he'd sit by her and give her tea and raspberries. Daughter, well, not everyone's so good. You have to realize, this family is more like the exception to the rule. Maybe you and that medic will be the exception to the rule. Imagine that for a minute. Okay, I will, but not until I take off my dress, say my prayers, and go to bed. Come on, Mom. I'll just sit here for a while. I'm gonna write down all my contacts on my phone. Already in bed, Camille took a moment to imagine how things might work out with this Christopher, her potential new boss. What would her new job be like? Would she be able to do it? The sun, the sea, and the Yakuts their strong embrace, giving her a calmness that didn't last long. The next day, Christopher did come to work, but immediately went not to Camille's office, but to his old friend and business companion, who was the woman's boss. What can I say? He did not want to let his best employee go, but he listened to his friend's persuasions and let her go. Camille, but Christopher on one condition. You won't hurt Camille. I mean, it's complicated. Her husband took her money, then ran off with a younger woman. It's corny. But Camille's been walking around at work, not herself. I wondered if she was gonna do something to herself. Yeah, I know. But she's a tough woman, believe me. She can handle more than one divorce, and more than one husband. By the way, who told you to steal Camille from me? She really is. We're the best value for the money. And I wouldn't want to. I didn't believe you. I certainly won't tell you how I found out about such a valuable asset. And by the way, if all the information from her employment history and her profile is correct, you really are losing a valuable employee. But by the way, you're not jumping the gun with your admin staff. What are your two senior staffers worth? You mean Rick and Sam? Believe me, more than one company tried to poach them from me, But the good thing is they started with me from day one, from scratch. And they didn't betray me. They didn't abandon me. Why do I owe them special thanks and respect? Fine, but with Camille, you don't think she's betraying herself. No, Christopher, I know that woman's story. I know she needs money, and I simply can't offer her more financially. I get it. All right, man, let's not hold Camille up about the uniforms. It's all honorable, and I'll meet her in my office. Already got her a new work suite ready for her. Maybe it's a good thing you don't have money for Camille's raise. She's been sitting around too long. This way, she'll have her day. Christopher did a great job renting out the building where Camille worked. It's where he started out. It's a tough career path to own a logistics company. Yes, he could probably tell with his eyes closed, given the number of steps he had traveled, where he was and which office was in front of him. But why go to all that trouble? There's Camille's office. Knock, 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 knock. Camille, good afternoon. And to you lovely ladies, good afternoon. Oh, Christopher, you've been here all morning. Yes, logistics, it's a thing that can't be subjunctive. So as they say, you gotta strike while the iron's hot, said Toshka. Wendy, Camille's colleague. Absolutely right. Sweet girl, Wendy, is that what it says on your merit badge? The girl smiled sweetly and delved further into the world of overheads and statistics. So, Camille, I wrought iron while it was hot and already visited your boss. I agreed that today all the documents will be formalized, and you can come to me tomorrow. Here's the address of my company. Is Camille leaking us? Wendy's voice shook. There was a note of surprise mixed with envy. Yes, dear girl Wendy. My company is also a logistics company, but not as a senior administrator of a management company. So girls, I apologize that you so easily take your employee, but with me, promising to exhibit delicious and sweets. Okay, we're not giving Camille away for nothing, so we're expecting a clearing from you. Christopher nodded his head and left the office and started walking downstairs to his car. 5 minutes later, on the tables in the office of Camille and 2 more of her colleagues, there was a lot of goodies and sweets, coffee, tea, cake, and several kinds of candy. What can I say? Christopher didn't skimp, so to speak, and put up a payoff for the employee. Though Wendy and Vanessa, also lasting with Camille's office, were glad that she was leaving. What can I say? Women's envy is such a thing that few people would tolerate a beautiful and intelligent employee. But neither Wendy nor Nancy said that to Camille when glasses of expensive champagne were raised to her health and success. Yes, Camille, well done. Lucky you. You managed to snatch him a puppy from a handsome rich man. And you got yourself a decent job. And Wendy and I are just gonna be the administrators. Come on, girls, just wait till you get settled into your new company, so to speak, and I'll find you a weaker spot. Of course, if you don't mind. Oh, how could we, for God's sake, mind? Nancy theatrically shook her hands and rolled her eyes. She looked reproachfully at Camille. That's right, Camille. Wendy echoed her words. We don't mind, and Christopher's dress is a lot bigger, so we're all for it. Just don't forget about us. You've taught me a lot about yourself. So she gave her colleagues a friendly hug and enjoyed a few sips of champagne. Yes, she was very fond of champagne, especially this sketch, the last time we christened Elon. And that, so to speak, purely with Emily, my best friend, even though Stephen had already shown his rotten guts, and Emily slept on the floor of their shared bedroom. And now the new boss has made her happy with a nice drink. Must be expensive, Camille thought, and looked at the bottle. The barcode really confirmed that the champagne was from France. And what kind of cheese is it? With big holes like her daughter liked in fruit. Chocolate. Camille, good afternoon. I'm Wendy, the receptionist. The girl at reception introduced herself, gave her a hand. The supervisor is already waiting for you. Let me show you out. Yes, of course, Wendy. Is it okay to call the supervisor Christopher by his first name? Just like that. It's not nice to just call him without a middle name. Honestly, I've only been here a month. But you know, he always asks to be called by his first name. I'm embarrassingly ignorant of his middle name. Oh well, thank you. If it's not against company dress code, I'll just call him Christopher. It's all a little kinky in here, isn't it? I don't know whether to wonder or wonder. Camille thought, but she didn't say anything to Wendy. Don't worry, it's true. It's not against company policy. And as you say, our chief, and as our chief says, helps to create a friendly atmosphere, to keep the emotional component at the right level. Not everyone is like that. Yeah, keep it at the right level. They will sit on their necks with such a party policy, with their legs hanging down, and then they will say that this is the way it should be. Well, maybe it works in this case, but we'll see. Camille thought in her mind, although the unpleasant residue remained. Christopher came Camille, our new employee. The girl reported to the chief about her arrival through electronic communication. Send her up and into my office. I'll be right there. Camille, please go to the chief's office. Wait for him. He's probably in a meeting. And she opened the door and let Camille inside. It's a very luxurious and tasteful office. Lots of space and light. But the windows were probably the first thing that caught his eye. From the ceiling and practically all the way to the floor, organizations that create an effect of space and weightlessness are declared. How beautifully thought out. At least such solutions for the office of the Chief of Men. Camille, good afternoon. How do you like the view from my window? Oh yeah, it's really breathtaking. It's like our 20E or our 21st 20E. The building itself has 21 floors. I'm practically at the top, so to speak. You don't like people walking on your heads, Camille said, and only then bought her tongue. I'm sorry, but I shouldn't have said that to you. I myself can't stand the noise from upstairs or around the sides. You and I are alike in that. I'm the same way. But this building, take my word for it, it's soundproof. So even if you were on the first floor, you wouldn't hear what was going on 20 floors up. Camille nodded her head and smiled. Then she sat down in the chair Christopher had pointed out to her. Tea, coffee. I just don't know what to offer you right now. Coffee, if I may. And Christopher, pardon my indiscretion, what's your middle name? Well, just calling you by your first name. And I'm not used to calling my boss so formally. Well, I do ask all my employees to just call me by my first name, and they shouldn't be embarrassed. This technique really works, creates a normal, friendly atmosphere in the team. And believe me, no one will sit on my neck and chase me around. Camille nodded her head and smiled. When Christopher made her a cup of coffee and placed a box of chocolates in front of her, he sat down and looked at Camille carefully. He mentally noted to himself how beautiful she looked for her years, and the man hoped he hadn't misjudged her, putting a new person in the position of manager. After all, maybe it was a good thing that a new person had been put in that position. He certainly not washed-out eye will assess the situation and point out the shortcomings. What should I pay attention to? Camille, do you realize the responsibility of the job I've entrusted to you? Yes, I do. I don't understand why you chose me, and I hope my friend didn't play a leading role. You're not the kind of man who takes on these jobs on the strength of a friend or a relative. No, I'm not. You're right, but I'll tell you why I chose you. And the first is your credentials as an administrator. They're really excellent. You were very well liked at your old job. In fact, your old boss was very reluctant to let you go. And here's the second thing I put in your favor. You're a new person, not interested, so to speak. It's important to me that you look at the situation in the company from the outside. Look at it and tell me what I should pay close attention to, what I should refine, where I should tighten tails, and so on. I hear you, Christopher. I will, frankly, I will do my best. But I also need your support and the help of your team. After all, you also realize that I have been in this field for a while, but I have never worked at this level. How does your company work? There will be no problems. I have already informed the staff, asked everyone to assist in this work, so you can be calm here. Thank you. I hope that we will live up to your expectations and our own positive characterization. I also hope that you will justify my hopes, and I will try to do everything to make you feel comfortable in my team, so that you justify your own efforts and the potential that you have in you. Strength. It was the potential that drew the eye to Camille. That's what I saw. And that is what Christopher saw in her standing on the doorstep of her own apartment. Strength that poured out of that woman with an inner light that gave no chance for any of that grief to make its way into her surroundings. Then let me show you to your office. You're welcome to stay for a day or two. Put things where you want them. And if you need people to move a table or a chair, call me. And I'll slowly bring you up to speed and the specifics of our work. Nodding her head, Camille stood up with the short man. She went to her new office. It's just as good as Christopher's business space. Lots of light, the same full wall, huge windows. But the curtains are dark, dense. We should change the curtains out loud, Camille said. And that feeling of heavy space. The man immediately understood what Camille needed and smiled to himself. Yes, I notice you also like light and space. Who doesn't? No, don't think so. I don't suffer. Claustrophobia just loves space and lots of light. Put every animal in a cage. How would it feel? Are you comparing yourself to an animal? I wonder what kind. Well, a lion, of course, but a cheetah, or maybe a black panther. And without expecting it, Christopher started making faces. Have fun like a child. They were both having fun, and they were laughing like children. So to speak, probably, so would have had fun if a young guy did not enter the office and indecently coughing addressed to Christopher. Christopher, did you ask to come in to see Camille? Yes, David, come in. This is Camille, by the way. Meet your secretary. You need an assistant, don't you? You know, typing up orders, making phone calls, that sort of thing. So David will be sitting here in the reception area. That's where he works. I hope you noticed. That's pretty much it. Thank you, Christopher. I didn't expect to have an assistant and a secretary myself, but it's nice. I hope David lives up to your expectations of a responsible secretary. But now I wonder, I have work to do. And looking at his watch, the man left the office, internal, wishing Camille success in the new place on his self-endurance. After all, there was still a lot of work to be done today. Although he most of all wanted to be near this woman, to laugh with her like this, maybe even to drink coffee, just to talk about nothing. But work wouldn't wait. It is necessary to go to earn money, and Camille should be given the opportunity to settle in the new place. But not Camille. Not Christopher did not know that soon in their usual way of life will burst into the hurricane named Stephen. What can I say? As the neighbor said, Stephen spent all the money taken from his wife's house on his miracle of nature. And as it turned out, it was only enough for a year, and the amount was really a lot, and it was enough for his doll Jenna not so long. Shopping in expensive boutiques, going to restaurants, sushi, bars, gifts. What's there just to pay the utility bills? Eating out every day. All of this was soon eating away at Stephen's financial potential, and her friend was demanding money. And not just for daily necessities, but for not denying herself anything. Jenna, but you know, the money's gone. I'm out of work. When I went to the resort with you, not for a couple days, but for a decade, my boss didn't just scold me, he fired me. I took 3 days off work, and it was all your fault. You know that very well. What am I supposed to do now? Well, Stephen, you're smart. You'll get a good job. You'll earn more. You've already got the keys to your Camille's apartment. And there's still money there. Jenna, you're either stupid or you're kidding. You realize we're divorced, and me showing up at her apartment is burglary. There's no way I want to go to jail. Why go to jail? You made money together with her for that apartment. That's why it's your third. And you realize that I just stole from my daughter's money, and for you what should have gone to her studies, and skipped them, by the way, together with you. That amount would have been enough for me to open my own place. That's how they got away with it. Well, kitty cat, don't be mad. Then think of yourself. And Jenna gently pressed herself against another of her cohabitants, from whom she simply pulled all the money and strength, and gave nothing in return. She was already thinking about throwing Stephen out of her apartment, and in his place to look for someone wealthy. If you ran out of money, why do I need you? Stephen was already thinking about such a variant of relationship development. True, he intended to leave his cohabitant himself. But where to go? Camille kicked out and changed the locks. Now this fool will kick out what Stephen reasoned aloud with himself, standing on the balcony, smoking strong cigarettes. Maybe I should really get a job. But shit, the former boss so spoiled my resume that I can only work as a loader. Well, what can I do? I gotta live and eat. You should smoke a cigarette or quit smoking. Otherwise I'll die before the women put me in a coffin. This option did not suit Jenna, who one day simply collected a suitcase with the things of her gone into oblivion lover and put it out the door. She didn't even bother to inform Stephen of her decision. But what was the man's surprise when he arrived at the door of his cohabitant and just saw on the threshold his old suitcase, with which he left his wife. Stephen looked bewildered at the suitcase, then at the door, and began to ring frantically with his fists as he had knocked earlier at Camille's apartment. Jenna, I'll get it, Stephen. Why is my stuff on the doorstep? Because I'm not interested in you anymore. So I decided to kick you out the door. The voice Jenna created behind her sounded unexpected, loud for her doll-like appearance, and out of surprise. Stephen jumped up and, turning around, simply could not believe his eyes. His woman stood on the stairs in the arms of some rocker, well, so to speak, gangster appearance, smiling wryly back at him. You kicked me out the door. Didn't you realize, man, that your broad is mine, and you don't live here now? No, you can sleep here on the mat guarding our happiness with Sasha. And he started laughing at Stephen, who stood there and looked at all this and couldn't do anything. What could he do? It's one thing to fight with Camille and a daughter so pathetic. It's another when you're facing a 2.5-foot tall jock who's probably been going to the gym since birth, and with one blow of his fist can blow your breath away. Jenna, then yeah. The money I spent on you, you can't do that. Yes, I can, and I already have. How did you take it from your wife? That's just how I was able to take them from you. There are more questions. By the way, I didn't just spend that money on me. I spent it on myself. We both went out with it, mind you. Stephen clenched his fists until his fingers ached, but realized that, in fact, she was right. And as they say, the boomerang came back at him. What he had done, they had done to him. There's nothing to say. And basically, there's nothing you can do about it. Where am I supposed to go at night? Stephen couldn't quite believe what was actually happening on the set. And I'm the one who said you could stay here on the mat. Listen to her moaning in bed. Jenna, she's having such a good time with me. Yeah, they'd been together a long time, and sex had become a regular thing for them. But with him, Jenna never moaned or even tried to fake. No, not until the beginning of their meeting, when she still had money in her pocket and he could spend it left and right. Now he'd lost that opportunity, and there was nothing left for him to do. How to take his things and leave. Already outside, standing under the awning, he took out his cigarettes and lit up. I had the last 5 cigarettes left, and I'm broke. Where am I supposed to go? Well, really, it's not like asking to go home, except, forgive me. Stephen stood there, taking puff after puff, and did not understand how such a clever bugger as he got into such a situation. One woman had kicked him out of the house. Really, what for? And the other simply used him like a kitten. What was he supposed to do? That man slapped himself on the forehead. What a fool he was. He forgot that after his mother's death he inherited a room in a dormitory. It wasn't a luxury apartment, but it was a good place to sleep. Stephen rummaged in his pants pocket and pulled out a bunch of keys. Shit, Jenna must have taken the keys to his apartment off the keychain when he was sleeping or washing or something. Thinking ahead and being a sneaky bastard, All she wanted was the money. Nothing else. "You're a fool, Stephen. It'll be all right. There'll be a holiday on my street. A man with hands and a head is not a freak. But I need to find a job and picking up my suitcase." He walked slowly through the evening city towards his old house, where he had lived with his mother long ago, in the days of his childhood and youth. How wonderful had those years been! Even though it was an old pre-revolutionary two-story building, water and gas. That years, pardon me, had to run to the street, but still it was good for him here with his mother and his company, when he could race a ball in the oven potatoes, in the fire, picking apples in the neighboring orchard. And where are these comrades now? Not many people are anywhere, but nothing. It is possible even in my position to start everything from scratch. He approached his old house when it was already quite dark. Though why should he be surprised? And he had to stomp from one end of town to the other at practically 2 o'clock. What he saw, though, left him quietly horrified. The house looked like the set of some foreign horror movie, old with plaster, skewed exit doors. Everything around it was overgrown with thick decorations, and what was once a small shrubbery has now grown to an impenetrable thicket. Wow! Wow! A house. A nice house. How dilapidated are you? No one hacks through the bushes for an improvised bow and arrow anymore. Yes, Stephen, hello. The voice of drunken neighbor Miho brought him out of his reverie from contemplation of the old and beginning to dust the house. "Hi, Miho. Are you drinking as usual? Maybe I should give up this number, but you'll teach me how to live." "Yeah." And spitting under his feet, the neighbor with a bottle in his hand went to the bench, and Stephen, having picked up his suitcase, entered the entrance and began to go up to the second floor and went along the long corridor almost to the very end. There was his favorite room door. It was shabby and hadn't been painted in a long time. Though what was there to be surprised about? How long have I been gone? I closed the door about 10 years ago, and I haven't heard a peep out of it. A fool should have invested not in Jenna, but here. I'm going to fix the door. I'm afraid to imagine what's inside. Barely opened, long-ruled and not greased lock. Stephen entered the room and was stunned. An old sofa, a metal bed, a chest of drawers and a closet, a table, a chair. That was all the furnishings. And no, John, there was a small TV on the windowsill, which he had managed to barter from the older guys. I can't remember what it was worth at the time, almost 20 years ago. And now, Stephen, you live here. Good, at least I still have a bed, but I'll have to change this rotten bed and pillows. But it'll do for now. Putting the suitcase on the floor, the man went to the kitchen at least to wash up, and maybe take some boiling water to drink tea. Only now he realized how hungry he was. "Oh, you helped. Good afternoon. You didn't recognize me. I'm the one who's been living here for years. Doesn't matter. A long time ago. Yes, I remember you, sir, all the way back. You used to steal canned goods from my basement, and your mama ran away from your father and sold her apartment. She gave all the money to you and bought a diamond ring for her daughter-in-law. She came here and drank a lot. I bet your wife threw you out. Well, Molly, you're as sharp as ever." And then Stephen gave a traitorous cry of hunger, especially loud when the old lady opened the lid of the frying pan with fried potatoes and meat. God, it smells so good. I'm drooling. Hungry. Yeah, I got some. You've devoured it. Here, which once again made a treacherous scream. Then bring me a plate. I'll feed you. You're not going to starve to death. His grandmother put on his plate flavored potatoes and told him how they live here, what happened, who died, who moved where, and all that. And of those who grew up with you in this house, Miho and a couple other people are left. But you know, we don't live here for the good. Damp, mold, fungus. It ate practically the whole house. But where am I supposed to go? My daughter and son died, leaving me without grandchildren. And their apartment was repossessed by the bank. Misha, he drinks. And a couple of old people just living out their days. Good thing our mayor had the roof re-roofed last year and changed the pipes. Otherwise, they'd probably be swimming in their own feces by now. Molly, this is delicious. Stephen started the potatoes and meat and thought how much he missed it all. The kind of simple food he remembered from his earliest childhood. Come on, let's go to my place. I'll pour you a drink. Remember my children. They went to the old woman's room, which was poor but clean with a characteristic senile odor. But still you have everything good here. It's not all that good. It's all junk. But how could I save my pension for new furniture? At least I could save up for a TV set. Otherwise, more Nightingale. Sit down at the table. Let's eat. I've got some sausage and bread. I'll pour it on the bread. Stephen drank a shot of moonshine and felt the liquid spreading through his internets, burning him. Oh, the grandmother's moonshine is strong. Where does she get it from? From what raw materials, the man did not want to know. Stephen only quacked, ate a piece of herring and bread, and then looked at the old woman. Pour another drink for your daughter and rest her soul. But don't drink for your son-in-law. Don't drink for that godless man. And she poured him a full shot of murky moonshine. Yes, with so much that the liquor went over the edge and splashed across the table. I see you cared more for your son-in-law. How much more than he? Poured it for the repose of his soul. Stephen thought to joke, but the old woman, apparently, did not understand his humor or did not want to understand, and just sat down on a chair and cried quietly, sodding oxen. Only her shoulders were shaking and tears were rolling down her cheeks. What a fool I am, Stephen thought, and fell silent. The smile was quietly gone from his face, and he didn't feel much like drinking. Molly, I'm sorry. I said something stupid without thinking. Don't cry, or your blood pressure will start to skyrocket. What am I supposed to do then? Nothing. Stephen, get your drink for the taking. Go get some rest. I've got to get my own bed. I don't want to spend the night poisoning my soul. Stephen drank a shot of vodka, ate a cucumber, and left the room. Without saying a word, he quietly closed the door. What can be said? Old women are living out their lives in this dilapidated bar on a senile pension. And who will bury her? Only the state. And who will bury you? Stephen, the cage, or Alka? Never. Maybe Elon, but she doesn't seem to have much love for her father. Whatever kind of father I am, I'm not. He went quietly into his room, opened the window, took out a cigarette and lit it. Yes, the last one in the pack. And there's no one to shoot. Right. I'll start quitting tomorrow until I get a new job and make a decent income. And now to bed. He kicked off his shoes and pants. He hung his shirt on the back of the old desk and threw the blanket off the bedspread. Yes, the bed would have to be changed, but there's plenty of time for that. Tomorrow, I'll have to wash the bed, scour the papers for job openings. I'm willing to go as a longshoreman. What was he supposed to do? Not beg Molly for a plate of potatoes and a shot of moonshine. That's how you get down to the level in a short time, which, even after all that he had been through, he did not want. Only after putting his head on the pillow, the man instantly passed out. He didn't even notice how he fell into a deep sleep and slept until almost noon. He woke up from the fact that the rays of the sun were falling on his face, and it was getting quite hot. Man, that's a good one. I'd forgotten how hot it could be in this room and how bright the sun could shine. I'll have to get some curtains from my mom's stockpile. I don't want you peeking at the sun in the morning. And wash the windows and the floors. Stephen stood barefoot on the floor and looked around. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'll have to use a rag today and tomorrow. I don't have a man's job, but I'll have to. Stood up and smiled sweetly at the new day. And there was so calm and joyful on his soul, as probably had not been since the day when he met Camille and realized that it was her he would take as his wife. It was nothing. He would show her how to be successful and self-sufficient. But first he had to get his house in order, get a better paying job, and, Molly, good morning. Hey, sneaky, how did you sleep on your mammy? On the bed. No nightmares from the dead. Why? No, I slept like a baby. It's still good to be in your own house, or rather, a room, even if it's a ruin. Don't you have anything to live on? Well, I won't have any money yet. I'm sorry, Molly. I won't give you any money, I'm telling you, but I'll feed you. Give me a plate. I still have some potatoes left from yesterday, but I won't give you much. I'll share with you only the crumbs until I retire. Thanks for that. Stephen took some potatoes, snacked on yesterday's pickle, and smiled at the old woman and kissed her on the cheek. How good it is that there are such neighbors as this old woman who would give the last but help. At least she can live on her own. There's nothing to get a job. Thank you. But first the cleaning, then the laundry. I found soap and powder at my mom's. Yeah, we're stocked up. Something to remember my mother by. Already in the evening, collected dry linen from the ropes and moved into bed. Stephen sat down on a chair, put his hands on the tablecloth and stood up. It's nice, clean here. It's all right, that poor knave thing. Here's Camille Capello he took. At least now he's sorry. Like that sly devil, she took all his money. Though it was his own fault, Stephen said quietly and stood up and went to the kitchen to fry potatoes and eggs. Strangely enough, but in the closet, in the bedclothes he found and his mother a certain amount of money, a stash, and in new bills. That's great. Good, at least it was rubles, not coupons. There is something to live on for the first time. And then there will be work. Money will come in. Maybe I should help my daughter Elon. I don't think she's so bad. We'll see. The man ate and talked to himself. It was easier for him to think, so to speak, to talk his plans out loud. All right, we've eaten, and that's good enough. Let's just go to bed. Tomorrow will require strength. I'll have to look for a job first thing in the morning. Just drink coffee and go looking for a job. From the morning recalculating the money and throwing a couple of bills in his pocket, Stephen took a windbreaker and went to the park. I should buy a newspaper with job ads and sit in the fresh air, read, then call back, just in case something pops up. And indeed, a job did pop up in an ad. However, it wasn't exactly what he wanted, but judging by the schedule and salary, it suited him better than ever. The job was in a logistics company as a loader with a 24-hour schedule, but the salary was almost at the level of his previous job. But the plus here is that there is no material responsibility, even if the goods were beaten, spoiled during loading. It wasn't imposed on him, which suited him just fine. So what's the number? He immediately dialed the contacts, the number, and made the call. After a couple of beeps, a girl picked up the phone and a pleasant voice immediately said, "Hello, Manager Miranda here." "Miranda, good afternoon. My name is Stephen. I'm about a job ad for a loader is still up to date. Yes, you can come in for an interview today. You'll be scheduled for 11. No problem. Sweet girl, I'll be there earlier." "Thank you, Stephen. We don't have to. We also have applicants booked at different times, and we don't want to create pandemonium." "Got it. I'll be at your place at 11 o'clock, then. Give me the address." And quickly wrote down the address in pencil on a piece of paper. Stephen was rubbing his hands together. It'd be time and paycheck. It's not like sitting in a stuffy air-conditioned office, and 24 hours a day is quite acceptable. Yeah, we can take care of the house, and work will be a paycheck. And then we'll see. We should ask around, see if they'd be interested. Not a loader. A financier, yeah. Exactly, a financier, even if not so advanced, and a willing worker. But I'm still a specialist. The bosses even awarded me 3 certificates. But Stephen doesn't have to choose yet. But Stephen at that moment did not know who he would meet at the new place of work. An hour later, the man was already standing under the office of a large logistics company and looking at the building itself, if they're renting such a space, apparently. "Good afternoon. You're being interviewed." A security guard came over and looked at him carefully. "Yes, but really, I have an appointment for 11 o'clock. In the meantime, I thought I'd take a look around. It's not customary to look around." You either go into the building or maybe wait for your time in the park." And the guard already pointed to the park, located not far from the office center. Stephen looked at his watch and did not argue, but simply nodded his head and turned around and went to the park. It was only 10:30. There was still plenty of time, but I didn't want to annoy the guards. Yes, if they have such guards, then, in fact, the company is a solid company working honestly and without deceit. That suited Stephen. He chose the nearest bench, from where there was a beautiful view of the entrance to the building, and began to wait. "Good afternoon, nice girl," Miranda said to Stephen, smiling, having read the name tag on the admin girl's shirt. "I'm interviewing for 11 meters. Where do I go?" "What job opening?" Her pretty face lit up at the sight of a potential employee, quite still cute. Stephen, of course, did not want to say that there is an interview for the position of a loader, but who knows how they have a system here. "Yes, the position is for a pretty girl." "Not a pretty girl. Don't look at her." "Well, I'm not looking at her. I just need to know where to send you, to whom, and to which floor. And in that respect, well, I'm the one for the loading dock," clearly said the girl with the pretty face from Wings. "Let's go to Kevin in the basement then. You take the elevator down to the ground floor, and there at the guard post, ask for Kevin." "Thank you. And you can use the elevator right here," and he pointed to the elevator in the lobby. "Or do you have a special freight elevator for movers?" He wanted to make a joke, but the girl looked at him so that Stephen immediately realized that his humor would not be understood or accepted here. Well, the hell with you, makeup. The doll is probably as self-serving bitch as his ex Jenna, who simply worked through his money, leaving the man with a nose. Turning around, he pounded his fist on the receptionist's counter and, without even saying thank you, went to the elevator. "Good afternoon. I'm here to interview for Kevin. You're for the loader position." The voice of the guard sitting at the entrance sounded indifferent. "He's kind of talking to the wall, isn't he? Wait, he's out right here. He'll be right back." That guard was too curious at the entrance. "He's so indifferent, you'd never know how they work here. But I guess there's no such thing as a one-time thing. All right, we'll figure it out as we go." Even though what he had seen had shocked him, and the man completely forgot about security work and everything that not so long ago he cared about. The basement door opened, and the first to enter the basement was a presentable-looking man in an expensive suit. A man in an expensive suit who led his Camille by the hand. They were chatting sweetly, discussing some of their work issues. But by the way the spark ran, it was very clear between them. They were definitely lovers, or at the very least, they were just beginning an affair. Stephen stood and watched, and couldn't say a word. She was working here. I wonder who. "Good afternoon. I understand that you are Stephen, an applicant for the position of a loader," asked the man walking next to Camille. "And I, Kevin. Have you had experience as a loader? Term or able to work or loader?" Stephen did not find what to answer. He just didn't know what a Rockland was. But he'd heard of a loader, though he'd never worked with one. He just didn't know how. And Camille just stood next to this man and looked at her husband with a kind of bewilderment mixed with pity, saying, "You've come all the way from Stephen, from being an office financier to being a loader. Yes, you realize I used to be a finance guy, and I don't know what a Rockland is, even though I've heard of movers. Yeah, that's a bummer." Kevin looked at him appraisingly and rubbed his beard. He realized that people don't just go from being a finance guy to being a custodian. "So why did you leave finance like that?" "We just need someone to work in finance." But that's when Stephen's legs gave out completely. What could he say? He stole money from his daughter, who's Camille's wife. Right there now, she saved up for years and left with it for her mistress. And she just missed that money, ran away from him, threw him out the door with a suitcase. Yes, there, Kevin, meet Kevin. This is my ex-husband, and he lost his job, so to speak, for family reasons. You just don't get the wrong idea as a professional. I think he'll get the job, but you gotta train him. He's your husband. I thought you said you were divorced, But Stephen and I split up. We decided to get a divorce. So why don't you give him a job in finance? I'll see if I can get him fired in that position. You can always fire him if you need to. Well, if Camille put in a good word for you, and in a managerial capacity, I think you should probably come by tomorrow. Come to my office in 313 on the 3rd floor at 10 o'clock, and I'll take you to the finance department to see the head of the department. Let him talk to you. Talk to you. I'll put in a good word for you, and Camille's already given her review. I don't think there's gonna be a problem. I hope you won't be a problem. No, don't worry. I can drink, but strictly on weekends, and it won't affect my work. Good, then I'll wait for you tomorrow at the agreed time, and don't be late. Stephen nodded his head and turned and went to the exit. This was a turn he had not expected in any way. His Camille, whom he called an old woman with a trailer, was not just younger when dressed, but became a luxurious woman, working as a manager. That's quite a turnaround. Going outside, he took out a pack of cigarettes and smoked, standing on the porch, and did not understand how to be further to go to this job and serve under his former wife, or to go look for another. But what can he do but count other people's money? I don't know shit, and I don't want to be a longshoreman. I'm always sweaty, dirty, carrying heavy loads. What's the point? He threw the cigarette butt into the trash can near the entrance and was about to leave, but turned back and saw Camille coming down the steps. She was a damn good-looking woman with a nice figure and nice clothes. And how did she smell of expensive perfume? But hello, Stephen. Watching movies, going out and hiding all the money I've been saving for school. What new wife or mistress doesn't feed you, doesn't give you money? Oh, come on. By the way, thanks for sticking up for me and helping me with my job. Yeah, the bitch kicked me out the door. So where are you living? My mom's room on the block. You remember I told you about it. Well, I've heard about the old room in the demolition yard, but as I recall, it was inherited from my mother, who died about 10 years ago. And the whole time, the room was abandoned. Why derelict? It was empty, yes. At least now I've cleaned it up, made the bed, hung some old curtains. You couldn't sit in your own house with your wife and daughter. So you decided to leave the young ones. And what did you end up with? A battered look, no money, and a bed in an old room. Camille, don't push me. It's bad enough in here as it is. That bitch Alka kicked me out of the house like a kitten and brought a new holage into the house. And they're probably right. They're living off my money today. Stephen, don't make me laugh. This money I collected pennies for our daughter, whom, by the way, you called illegitimate. So please don't say another word, lest I regret putting in a good word for you. She threw her head down and walked to the bus stop. And as luck would have it, she had to stop by the IRS, solve a delicate issue, and run into her ex-husband on the way out. Well, that's a bummer. This board takes offense at someone for simply kicking him out the door. Good for you. That Jenna showed you what you're worth. She was on the bus, and she was mad at herself. I don't know why or at whom. Well, I guess Mother Fate was finally able to pay her ex-boyfriend back in full, punishing him in a way she wouldn't have punished herself. But on the one hand, she felt sorry for Stephen, not adapted to life, unable to earn even for himself. He'd gone for a walk. Maybe she shouldn't have stood up for him. Let him work as a longshoreman. He'd know what it's like to get his white office pens dirty, to carry heavy loads and all that. No, I don't. My pity, it's gonna get me killed. She said it out loud on the bus and didn't think people could hear her. You're the pity roll. A young man sitting next to her was holding a beautifully grown kitten. Yes, they got a cat that's been fed here. Now I'm sorry he's gonna shit on the mat. They're all grown up. Well, you can have a little one, like mine. He's already trained in all cat manners. He looked at Camille carefully, and the woman was just surprised. What beautiful blue colors his eyes were. What a little ginger kitten. Yes, she had promised her daughter to get a kitten from the cat, her friend. But it looks like it didn't work out, or she changed her mind. But I'd be happy to take it. If you trust me with this little cutie, I will. I didn't know where to put this joy. Here at the bazaar, he'll be placed in your safe hands. Don't worry, the kitten is healthy. Our cat gave birth to him, taught him the finer points of cat etiquette, and this one was left as an orphan. Come on, I live in an apartment, and believe me, I promise him proper care. That's great. Then here you go. Take care, baby. The guy gave the kitten to Camille and patted it behind the ear, thanked the woman, and got out. She drove and fought. This is what she'd done. We have to go home now. Take this duck and trust him to her daughter. Buy food, all the food she needs for the cat. All right, baby, let's go to my house. I'll introduce you to my daughter. 10 minutes later, Camille was home and was glad that Elon hadn't gone anywhere. The daughter is the new tenant in the house, Camille shouted, taking off her shoes and putting her bag on the table in the hallway. Mom, what are you talking about? The daughter came out of her room and just wanted to ask who it was. She saw a small and red kitten in her mother's hands. Well, we all wanted a cat. A handsome, blue-eyed guy gave it to me on the road. Now you dig, feed, and raise it. Oh, and by the way, go to the store and get everything you need. My mom's awesome. I'm glad you brought him, huh? 'Cause the cats had all the kittens. Great. Did you drive all the way home on purpose? Well, I can't go to the IRS with this mustachioed ginger joy. Go ahead and study. I'm moving on. And buy him some baby food, shouted Elon, and went to bathe the new pet, happy as a baby. Camille walked out of the house and smiled to herself. But here were at least two people. One kitten she made happy today, and that was worth living for, her husband. Come on, she had forgiven him long ago. After all, he gave her the priceless experience of happiness, to be loved, to feel needed, even if only for a short period of time. What kind of eyes did he look at her with today? How surprised he was at her position and power. It was worth the trouble and misery, the money he had stolen. If it were not for luck, it was for misfortune. Already in the evening, sitting in the kitchen at his wife and daughter Redhead, Camille told how their new pet came to her, and then she herself did not understand why. She said, "Stephen came to my company to apply for a job." "That's Dad coming to work for you." "Mom, are you saying you gave him a job, and by who? Are we a toilet or a yard?" "Daughter, I'm not judging you. He came in so ugly, beat up, like a yard dog asking for his bone under his shrunken tail. I couldn't help him. As manager, I can make the decision. I hope you won't regret it. And what kind of job did you entrust him with?" Daughter squinted at her mother with a disgruntled look at the financier in the department. Advised, said that you need to learn. "Mom, are you crazy? Dad's a finance guy. You want him to take over the farm for you, but not me. And you know, you'd never trust a rookie to do a complicated job, typing, tabulating. It's not like typing up an invoice." "Yeah, and Stephen's been working in finance for years. He's not the best at what he does, but he can handle simple tasks. In fact, do you know what position he was originally going for?" "What job?" "The loader position. That's Stephen and a loader. He's already got a bad leg and a couple bags in his back, so he's gonna collapse right on the job." "Mom, I hope you're not taking him back to the house." The daughter jumped up from the desk and grabbed the redhead on the arm. She glared angrily at her mother, and without waiting for a reply, tore into the room and straight out. Camille said quietly. The daughter simply did not hear her words, and she spoke more for herself than for anyone else. She felt sorry for Stephen, but Camille realized that there was no going back. The time when she pitied her husband, pulled him and the house around her neck, had passed. "Don't worry, daughter, everything will be all right." The woman put away all the compositions, and having taken a shower, went to the door of the room and quietly knocked. "Ladies, come in." "Elon, I wanted to tell you, or rather to reassure you, that your father will not return home. And we were happy at one time. He gave me you because I just helped him. Elon asked. That's like a grown woman. Yes, I believe that I gave him his debts to a certain extent. But the fact that he took your money that was set aside for my studies, that's nothing. Elon, you're right, but in your own way. I think that's how I bought my freedom. That's the answer you're looking for. It's the reason I have a new job, a higher salary, and maybe a new beau for you and a new daddy for me. Elon, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but Christopher has a soft spot for you. That's great. And he's actually a very positive man. Although if Dad works at your company, I'm afraid to imagine Dad's reaction. Okay, Mom, I agree with you, but be careful. You're hesitant, and Christopher wouldn't let me get away with it. The next morning, Camille almost fell on the doorstep of her own company. Stepping out of the elevator and rounded the corner on the way to her office, she came nose to nose with Stephen. The man was standing outside her office, holding a bouquet of white daisies and stomping from foot to foot. Stephen, are you doing something? Camille, from surprise, even almost fell to the marble floor. It's Camille. I'm sorry about everything. I brought you your favorite daisies. I wanted to say thanks for doing it for me yesterday. I won't let you down now. I'll do my best at my new job. Are you serious, Stephen? The woman began to open the office with her key and walked inside. She gestured to the ex-husband of the passerby. Stand there. See how I live. Here's my office and everything. Well, really, don't be mad at me. I was a fool to leave you, to take the money. I'll be helping out, by the way. I won't be able to pay for her studies, but I'll give her money for small purchases. I sinned. You don't have to, do you? I forgave you a long time ago. The only thing I want you to do is redecorate your room. You know, the stuff your mother left you when she was alive, if you remember. Yes, she did. Stephen said with his head down. Put a proper headstone on her grave. If you need money, I'll help you. No need. I'll do it myself. Thanks again. She carefully put the bouquet of daisies on the table and quietly went out, closing the door behind her. God works in mysterious ways, Camille thought, and took the daisies in her hands, poked her nose into them, and breathed in the sweet fragrance of the meadow beauties. Camille stood at the window and smiled to herself. She felt light and warm at heart, for in essence, she now had everything she had lacked before freedom. The bases under her feet supported work and peace of mind at home. And most importantly, my daughter is studying where she wants to. And there's ginger happiness living in the house, just like I'd wanted for a long time. And God forbid Stephen gets over it. He'll find a girlfriend and make a lot of money like he always wanted. No, not a lot of money. And then again, a certain Jenna turns his head and leads him to spend his hard-earned money. The woman smiled to herself and put the daisies in a large vase, poured water from the bottle to the right into each branch, each leaf. Thank you, Stephen. It won't go away. And then to this young one, I would have started with you to this day. But now it will be new with new perspectives and plans for life with a different vision of what it means. Camille, knock knock, may I come in? Christopher's voice made her wince. Yes, of course, come in. Do you want coffee? No, I'm here about something else. You endorsed your husband yesterday. Is that true? Yes, you're questioning my judgment. It's not that. I agree with your decision. But tell me, what's confusing you? Stephen certainly wouldn't steal company money. He knows the job. He may not be a specialist like you, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm worried about you. Camille smiled to herself. Christopher's words pleased her more than ever. If he's worried, that is. Are you jealous? She looked at him in a way she hadn't looked at any man in a long time. Her boss's reaction once again confirmed her suspicions. He was in love with her, and the appearance of a spouse, even though a former spouse was on the horizon, made him jealous. If you like to think so, yes, and he's the one who brought you the daisies. Camille didn't know what to say. It didn't seem right to say nothing. And to say that the flowers were from her husband, even though he was her ex-husband, was to overstep the bounds of the fragile relationship the feelings that had begun to bud between them. And they both knew that, so they didn't want to take it to the extreme. Christopher, it doesn't matter who gave it to me. Just understand, it's my past. I let it go. Understand me and forgive me. And if you feel the need to fire him, that's fine with me. But just please give Stephen a chance to prove himself. If he fails, I will fire him with all proletarian hatred. And you, dear Camille, for this decision of yours. Dinner at the restaurant in my company. Are you inviting me? Yes, this Friday, and I won't take no for an answer. The man smiled and made a theatrical vow. He left Camille's office. Jesus, she thought. Is it really a holiday on my street? And the woman really felt like Cinderella who got to the ball and squeezed her eyes shut. Camille ducked her face into the bouquet of daisies, allowing new feelings to rush into her life. And then whatever happens from there. Maybe she'd get lucky and Christopher would really be her prince. She'll find true feminine happiness for once.